some ground rules here. Please type in your questions only after when we ask you, when we open the floor to Q&A, only then type in your questions. Yes, Naveen, participant's mic will be muted. You can type in your questions at the end when I ask you to do so. So the two of us, Shrikant and myself, will be speaking right now. So, welcome to this series of Rendezvous with Business School. Today we have with us Mr. Shrikant from UCD Michael Smurfit Graduate Business School. He has over 10 years experience in diverse roles. Post his MBA from UCD, he worked with Soapbox Labs, a Dublin-based artificial intelligence company, on product commercialization planning and researched on global speech recognition technologies. Currently, Shrikant is Head of Research at Tech Ireland, a data analytics and business intelligence company in Dublin. Welcome, Shrikant. Request you to tell us about the business school.
Thank you very much, Shivani. That was a really kind introduction. Again, hello to everybody there, and I hope the evening, the weekend evening is looking really good, and you're all looking forward to go out tonight, just after your MBA grinds now. So what I've been told to do is to give you a quick introduction about the business school and what kind of courses are there. And I'll probably also talk about the kind of competencies and requirements that are part of the selection process. I think that's going to be of interest to some of you. And what we can also do is maybe about Ireland and Dublin in general, but I'd really look forward to more questions, because I'd like you to drive the webinar more than me just going ahead and talking things that I might think would interest you, but I'd like to know from you what you'd like to listen to anyway. So let's start with the school itself. I'm sure you've heard of, or you've just come across people talking about UCD Michael Smurfit Graduate Business School, or just because of this webinar itself. They are ranked, I think, in the 60s or so, or 60s or early 70s on Financial Times. They are the only Irish business school that feature on the top 100 on MBA rankings on Financial Times. And in fact, that was one of the main reasons why I kind of started looking at them. And then I did more research to see that they have triple accreditation, an American, European, and Asian accreditation for their MBA program. Now, just to talk about the course in a layman, language, because I mean, I've just attended the course and completed it last year. It's a very intense course, a 90 credit course. So they have basically it's a trimester, but they call it semester. So they have trimesters, so every 3 months you have exams, and it's a beautiful school. The university, which is called University College Dublin, that's what UCD stands for. The university is about 3 kilometers away from the B school. The business school is in a village or county Dublin called Blackrock. It's a brilliant campus. The facilities are all really nice, and the course itself is quite intense. When you start the course, when I started the course, I was like, what have I gotten myself into? So a lot of pressure, but it really teaches you to manage yourself. I think after a year, I think that's probably more an objective of an MBA than to learn financial accounting or cost systems, etc., etc. The diversity in the classroom is brilliant. We had a class of 39-40 people. And just of those 40 people, there were 10 countries represented. So we had someone from Saudi Arabia, Brazil, Mexico, US, India, China, Vietnam, so Irish. So a very diverse class, people with minimum, I think the least experienced had about 5 years experience or 4 years something. and the most experienced had about 20 years experience. He was director of a nationalized bank in Ireland. So you have a wide range of people sitting there in a classroom. Extremely elite business school, I would say. Smurfit is a very elite business school. So when you go out, even when you're working, or now that I'm kind of meeting people outside, so when I tell them I've done an MBA from Smurfit, they have their eyebrows raised. So it's kind of a very niche school. Not every Irish would kind of find it easy to get into UCD Michael Smurfit School. So it's quite hard for them as well. In terms of exchange, so yeah, there's good diversity, good projects, because the school is the only premier school that is in Ireland for an MBA. Yeah, Trinity Business School is another school. I mean, I'm not really promoting any one individually, but I'm giving you the entire picture there. Trinity is a very old university, very popular, but their MBA program is still new. So probably that's one reason why UCD's MBA program stands out compared to any other. So yeah, so the course is quite challenging, but it's doable. It gets over in a year, which is definitely good. You can start working. Sure, you all know, but this is one thing that's pivotal for many Indians who are looking to study abroad. So if you do an MBA or any master's course in Ireland, you get a 2-year work permit after the course. I think no other country is doing that at this point in time. So that kind of signals that the country wants to bring in more people, unlike other countries or any other country that would be kind of cautious or skeptical in bringing more Indian talent inside. So I think Irish people are really welcoming. They're very, very nice in terms of security and safety in the society. It's beautiful. There's nothing to worry about. I mean, I can walk out in the road at 1 or 2, or if there are, you'll see girls running with track suits at 2 a.m. at night. So it's a very sportive country. Everyone's playing rugby, football. There's a lot of Gaelic or Irish sports called hurling, and there's something called Gaelic football and things like that. So very interesting place, very happening, very friendly people. They all drink a lot of beer. So if you don't drink, maybe you should just practice drinking some. It's a very friendly country. Very small country, just a population of 4.7 million people. But that's good in many ways, because the resources that there are, each person gets to attain a lot more. In fact, the tech scene here is superb. There are all the top multinationals have their European, or it's called EMEA, basically Europe, Middle East and Africa headquarters is in Dublin. Google, Facebook, LinkedIn, they all have their headquarters here. Twitter, lot of Irish multinationals. The venture capital scene is really strong. I think from 2015 to 2016 there was a 70% increase in VC funding for Irish startups. So from about 550 million euros, it went to 888 million euros in 2016. And in 2017, just the first half, I think they recorded about 550 million euros. So a lot of investment pouring into Ireland, especially after Brexit and post-American elections. For various reasons, companies are looking at Ireland because it's the only English-speaking European Union country at the moment. So it's interesting and it's good. And if you guys are looking for any specific information, you could just throw up questions on the Q&A. And I think I've spoken for 10 minutes, Shivani. Is that okay?
Yes, perfectly
Thank you very
fine.
much.
So, yeah, so participants can ask their questions now. You can just type in the chat window, and we'll be happy to take those questions. So Shrikant, if you can just throw some light on the tuition and the average cost of living, what would be the overall package for someone who's looking to do his or her?
Yeah, so it's basically, I think the fee is 34,500 euros, which is about 24 to 26 lakhs Indian rupees. So that's just the tuition, and you will need another like maybe 10 lakhs for your living expenses, because the rent is really high in Dublin. So that's probably the only thing that's expensive, because if you know to cook, or if you come here you will learn how to cook, so that shouldn't be a problem. A lot of Asian shops, a lot of Indians here, so you will get every single thing that you want, that you know, to cook or to make your food or whatever. You wouldn't have enough time while studying to even cook. So rental expenses, so per month you pay about 800 euros rent for one bedroom, which is essentially could be ensuite. We call it attached bathroom there. So yeah, so 800 euro is approximately what you would have to spend on rent, and you'd spend another 200 euros if you live a comfortable life, for food, and if you want to go out to party sometimes. So 1,000 euros at least you need. That, I mean, I'm being kind of not conservative. There are people who share rooms and all that, so they end up spending like 450, 500 euro a month as well for rent, which is really good. A lot of Indians, many of us do that here, but I'm just giving you ideal values which are much higher. Yeah.
Right. So Utkarsh has this question around Gmat score. What would be an ideal or a range of Gmat score required to get into
I
UCD?
think anything above 660, 670 is okay, but then because there are people even with a 700 who got rejected because there were so many Indian applications. So I would say having a 700 is safe, because the school also gives a 50% scholarship if you get a 700, and they generally guarantee a scholarship if selected. With a 700 you definitely get 50%, which is great. So your MBA costs you only 12 lakhs. So it's one of the, I think they're ranked top 1 or 2 for value for money on Financial
Right.
Times. So it's
So
fantastic.
Kunjita has this question around profile performance. I think she means what kind of profiles do UCD takes? Probably you can talk about some of the profile of people in your own batch, probably Indians, and how many years of experience generally is required.
Yeah, okay, now I don't come from a tech background, so I was kind of an odd man out. Um, but generally, it's really favorable if you have an IT background, because there are so many IT companies here. Like this year's MBA, now I did my MBA last year, so this year's class, Accenture, there were like I think 10 or 11 Indians in the class. Accenture hired 8 of them. And the kind of roles here are very strategic, but they just want people to have a tech background. So if you know to code, you will definitely get a job. And number of years experience, I think UCD requires minimum 3 years experience, if I'm not wrong. 2 or 3 years, I'm sorry, but just check on their website and you'll find that. So yeah, you need a minimum 3 years experience something. And well, there were people with 15 years experience as well, 15, 17 years, but I'd say average would be
Right.
about 9 to 10.
So apart from IT, which other sectors would be in demand? Is finance, is UCD good for finance or marketing?
Yeah, yeah. FinTech is very popular. Again, that's tech again, financial technology. Things that are really gaining a lot of steam would be FinTech, encryption, Bitcoin, blockchain, and mostly ICT again, I'd say. Yeah, data analytics. Data analytics is a big field again. Digital marketing again. So there's nothing like a conventional marketing here. So for Indians who come from conventional marketing or HR and such roles, you should be a bit cautious. You should probably learn something else so you upskill and get different job roles here, because all such jobs, it is sensible and it is quite evident that they want the local population to take up these roles, because we might not always be the best cultural fit
Right.
for such roles.
So Bhanu has this question around minimum Gmat score. I think Shrikant has already answered that. So no business school will have a cutoff, but they 650 660 is the score that you definitely would need to get into a school like UCD. Naveen has a question around average package. So do you have any idea on what kind of packages were drawn by people who passed out from UCD in the MBA program?
That's a difficult question, to be honest with you, but because I've never really asked many people what they've got. I know one girl got 90,000 euros from McKinsey, but there was just one. Now, there are people who might have got above 100,000, but they all have like 15-20 years experience in Ireland, and an Irish person doing an MBA from Smurfit is like hotcake. But even they find it really hard to get jobs. So they wait for 6 to 8 months. It's all through networking. Someone should tell, okay, we have a company that is starting and we want you as the CEO. Then we take, it's all really complex. So we should kind of get out of the mentality that we have in India, where we're doing studying in an engineering school and the placement office is almost like a job market workshop. So that does not happen here. But the school, just out of its lobbying and clout, often pushes people and people in industry to meet with their students. So if you are good at networking and you are good at talking and you're good at convincing people, or you have the right skill sets, they will definitely hire you. Indians have mostly got paid anywhere between 45 to 58,000. One exception of an Indian who got a 61,000 package. So, and that is also very high in terms of salary, because the national average salary is 33,000. So, a 50,000 salary is extremely good in Ireland.
Right. So
Yeah.
Utkarsh and Rohit are asking questions around other requirements besides the GMAT. So I'm sure they need work experience, they need letters of recommendation, essays, etc. Um, so it would. So Rohit says so. It more about learn and job seekers should not prefer for UCD. So Rohit, can you elaborate on your question? We are not clear what you are really asking. Rajan has a question. I have heard UCD holds 5 career fairs, and out of which one fair is only for Indian student. Is that correct?
Rajan, I do not know if there's only one for Indian students. I'm not sure about that, but there are some career fairs. Most of these career fairs are for MS people. Okay, now UCD is different. Now UCD might have probably, God knows, 20-25 career fairs. But UCD Smurfit School, they do have a couple of fairs. Most of them are for MS. Companies want to hire for their graduate programs, and very easily people get into graduate programs. The salaries are about 23-24,000, because most of these graduate programs, the hires have less than 3 years experience, and such people only get into the MS programs basically. So MBA is a different story. For MBA, career fairs do not work, because the jobs that MBAs need are more strategic. So it's not like MBA is only networking. So you reach out to someone, the director or the manager or somebody at Ryanair or whichever, Kerry Group or Glanbia, Boardbia, they're all like big companies. The school helps you with introduction to people in companies if you want to talk to somebody. So then you should go meet them for coffee, talk to them. It's extremely important that you start networking from day one. So MBA job search process is extremely different. It's not the career fair angle.
So, considering that many students are also looking for a career shift after an MBA, like engineers wanting to go into finance or business analytics, so how does UCD promote or encourage such switches? Are there any internships, etc.?
No, there are no internships, but so I'll tell you, I mean, sometimes we generally have kind of a bit uh, high hopes on the school always. The school cannot make a person or an engineer a finance person and send that person to the market. You know what I mean? So to be a finance, so if someone has worked for 10 years in finance, and if someone has done coding for 10 years and the role requires finance, on what basis will a 1-year MBA make that person a fintech guy? But the school itself, it's a breeding ground for thought leadership, and collaboration, exchange of ideas, and diversity. So you will come across a lot of opportunities. You'll have people walking in to talk and things like that. So when you meet them, so we had like people, Ogilvy CEO addressed our marketing sessions. Kerry Group is a very big food company. They are very closely working with UCD. So most of these companies have sponsored UCD and the programs and all of these things. So the school can give you a platform. Making a dramatic shift, like from marketing to data analytics, or God knows, maybe that's still okay. Marketing to data analytics is fine, but from if you were doing some accounting job there and you want to start working, you want to code here, or you want to become a Python developer, I think that's quite dramatic, and we might really want to smell the coffee before we kind of expect what's coming up. But there are possibilities. Like I'm just one example where I wasn't working in data analytics, or I wasn't doing research. I was in business development in India. I found it extremely hard to kind of find a job. I'm just making it, I'm being honest with you guys. I started doing an internship basically. So 3 months after my MBA, I started working. So for 3 months, I basically didn't have a job here. So school again pushed it. I mean, I should be really thankful to them for what they did for me. There was an internship role that came up, a paid internship role, and the school pushed my application because they know who can fit into what kind of roles. I got into that company. It was a 6-month internship, and that was the artificial intelligence company, an amazing company. They're doing something great. Like their data sets are probably thousands of times larger than any other existing data set for speech recognition software in the world. So I worked with them for 6 months, and they were not able to retain me because that role was only a 6-month role. So all the companies work very lean over here because the salaries that we're talking about are massive. So they can't hire someone just because they like or they dislike them. But that boss, my former boss, CEO of Soapbox Labs, referred me to my current boss, who are both friends. So I just went to my current boss on a Friday evening and I said, hi, Patricia Scanlon from Soapbox Labs, and introduced and all of that. We spoke on Friday, and on Monday I joined that company. So it's all about knowing people and making your own kind of way. So it's really hard, but people are doing a good job. And especially if you come from a tech background, that this was the story of a non-tech person struggling in Ireland. But if you come from a tech background, or even if you have digital marketing analytics experience, you will definitely do an
Right.
amazing.
So answering some of Rohit's question, UCD does give scholarships, and Shrikant has pointed out that if you get a 700 GMAT, you can get up to 50% of scholarship. Um, how well is UCD MBA accepted in India? That's Roshan's question. Somebody who wants to come.
Okay, now that's a yeah. So one person, one of my classmates himself, he did not want to work here. So right after his MBA, he went back to Delhi to work, and he's working. He's doing well. I think I do not know his salary. I never asked him, but an MBA from UCD should be accepted. So because I haven't yet come to India looking for jobs, I do not know. But this is probably one
Right.
example.
Rajan has a question. Is there any option of getting a GMAT waiver in UCD? And what is the MBA class size and how many Indian students were part of UCD MBA?
Okay. So first of all, there is no GMAT waiver. GMAT is compulsory, and almost all Indians who come to UCD Smurfit now have a score of over 700 unless they have some exceptional profile with a 650 or a 670. What was the other
The
question? I'm
MBA
sorry.
class size and how many Indian students were there as part of your MBA? Indian students.
Okay, the MBA class size is about 40, and there were 9 Indians in my class.
Right. So, is there any option of working part-time? I'm sure the program is very rigorous, so not many students would find time to work part-time. But Rohit has a question around part-time job while studying.
You are eligible for 20 hours of employment per week, but trust me, you will not do anything but your MBA. So it's really rigorous. When I say rigorous, I told you I think that's what I started with. 3 weeks into the program, and I was like, what have I gotten myself into? You know, so you can't really work. No. There are people who do work. I mean, yeah, there are people who do work maybe. Like I did not really go out working anywhere, but there are people who work and they get paid minimum wage of 10 euros an hour, which is a lot of money. So you work even like one Saturday for 8 hours, you get 80 euros, and you can really manage your food expenses with that for the whole week.
Right. So, would you like to share any experience from while you were studying at UCD, in terms of extracurricular activities or clubs at UCD? Which clubs can students participate apart from the academics?
Um, there are a lot of clubs. So there's something called Thought Leadership Club. I was a part of Thought Leadership Club. We organized a couple of seminars, guest speeches, and like obviously when you know the kind of, so these are good things because I got an opportunity to talk to the boss or head in Irish Times then, who came to UCD, and he delivered a speech. So you're coordinating things, and in fact, so we just yesterday, incidentally, we chartered the UCD Smurfit Toastmasters Club, and I was actually a founding member of the club. So when I joined the school, I realized there was no Toastmasters Club in the school, while many top business schools have a Toastmasters Club. So I and a couple of friends of mine, we spoke to the MBA program director. We started off having Toastmasters meets, and today we've chartered. So like yesterday we chartered. So there are a lot of clubs. MBA rugby club. There is social entrepreneurship club, or there's another entrepreneurship club itself, where Irish startup entrepreneurs come and talk to people there. There's a lot of encouragement given to people who want to start their own companies, but there's for Indians, it's going to be different because on your graduate visa, which is your 2-year work permit that you get after your MBA, you are not allowed to start a company of your own, but you can be employed only. So if you want to start something on your own, you need to get a business visa for which you have to invest about 50,000 euros. So that's about whatever, 35-40 lakh rupees to get a business visa. So you cannot look at entrepreneurship as an option immediately after your course. But yeah, so there are a lot of clubs out there, a lot of them. It all depends on how much time you make and how well you manage your schedules to engage in them.
Right. So Utkarsh is asking a question around class timings. So I think MBA programs are not designed keeping in mind specific time class timing. They run round the clock. So
No, I mean over here in the first semester we had classes starting at 8 a.m. every day. So it used to be like 8 to 1 o'clock I would have lectures. 1 to 2 obviously we would all go for lunch. 2 to 4 we would have group meetings, so there are syndicate rooms and very beautiful infrastructure actually inside this one school. So group meetings, and we would have group assignments to discuss, lot of brainstorming, lot of ideas. Obviously people from 5 different or 6 different countries and 6 different backgrounds trying to solve a case study, and everybody has their own opinion, so you need to kind of bring everything into unison. So, and then by 5 o'clock I would start working on my assignments till 8 o'clock, and then at 8 o'clock I would go to gym, come back home at 9, make dinner, and read case studies for the next day, go to bed at 2, and back in school at 8 a.m. So that's an extremely difficult schedule for the first 3 months, then it really comes down in terms of pressure.
right. So Shrikant, if somebody wants to, let's say, stay in Ireland in the long term, so after the 2-year period has come to an end, is it easier for companies to sponsor your visa and let you stay there for longer, work there for longer?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. After 2 years, you don't need work sponsorship anymore. You will get a stamp 4 visa. So without work permit, you can basically work here. That's essentially equivalent to having a green card.
Okay, okay. So the country is very liberal in that aspect.
Very liberal, and they're looking for good people, good talent.
Right.
So they
So
need a lot of tech. They need a lot of data analytics. They need a lot of digital marketing people.
right. So I think that is beautifully captured. Any final questions from participants? I'm just looking out for. Meanwhile, if you want to, um, so Rohit has a question around salary. So I don't think that anyone can give you a figure on salary, how much salary you would get after this much of experience, because you'll have to go there and explore network, as Shrikant has pointed out. Right. So Roshan has a question around taxes. How much typically people would be paying on tax?
The taxes are really high. I think there are different slabs and all that. Like till about 20,000 euros an annual income, you're not taxed. From 21 to somewhere around 30 or 35, whatever, it's I think it's 20%, and then it becomes 40% tax over and above that. So the taxing, yeah, it's quite heavy. Personal tax is really high, but it's okay. I mean, checks and balances, by the end of the day, it's always better.
Right. So Roshan has a question: is managerial experience a must for admissions? I won't say that, but what is your take, Shrikant?
I'm sorry, managerial experience for what? For admissions. Okay. No, not at all. If you know to self-manage, I think that's good management.
Right. So we are kind of ending the webinar. We are about to end the webinar. If you have any final questions, please ask. If you want to any help in applying to UCD, I am just giving away one email ID. You can drop a mail to this with your profile. Send us your profile, and we will be able to help you with the applications. Admissions at jamboreeindia.com. So typically, when does application close for UCD, Shrikant?
Shivani, I think they start really early for the next year. So I think for the coming summer, they are already, the applications are open, admissions are open. The earlier the better, because it's first come, first serve. So you don't want to be like waiting till July to apply. So try and do it as soon as possible. And yeah, once you know you've got an admission, start doing research about the job market, about the people here, understand what you want to be doing in the market here.
Right. So Naveen has asked a question around professors at UCD. Your experience with professors.
Yeah, some of them are really nice. Now, like it's wrong to say just the big names are good, because sometimes people who, I mean, I've had this experience that someone who came as a new lecturer or professor was really interesting, and someone who's very experienced wasn't great always. But there are good people. In fact, for economics, business economics, we had an authority in the subject coming and teaching us. Actually, he's one of the 3 top people in the world. So he would fly from Manchester every week only for that 1 hour's class, and he would go back. So the school tries to do a lot of research on who should come and teach, and they actually put up the best possible.
Right. So Utkarsh is asking, I'm running my own business. Yes, you can show it as your work experience. It could be your own startup company, and consider taking LORs from your clients, etc. So that will work for UC.
Definitely. I think, well, if you're an entrepreneur, that's great, but just make sure that you have supporting numbers, like what kind of business did you bootstrap, what innovation did you build, did you talk to investors and VCs, did you get any kind of funding support, what was the supply chain, what changes did you bring into your supply chain, etc., etc. So try and make it as quantifiable as possible.
Right. So I think that's all the time we have, and we are done with the questions as well. So thank you, Srinath, for conducting this webinar on a Saturday. It was really very informative session, and thank you all for making this an interactive session. It was pleasure talking to all of you. Goodbye and have a great weekend.
Thank you very much, Shivani. Thanks a million for having me over. Good luck to everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.